Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from the act named The ATG titled Outside. And if we switch over to here we have the track on YouTube, so we're going to listen through it from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go! Very cinematic immediately.
On the outside looking in, outside looking in, outside looking in, whoa. On the outside looking in, outside looking in, outside looking in.
I wasn't expecting that angle, but I dig it. The trap drums in combination with the presence of the vocals, the choir in the background, the bass being nice and tight like that. Sick.
Whoa. Doing damage, doing damage, doing damage, doing damage to myself. I'm just abandoning myself. Whoa. Isolation. I just need some concentration. I just need some concentration. Whoa. By myself, I'm trying to get 100 million. They don't understand. I'm trying to touch the ceiling. I don't think they really notice how I'm feeling. I don't think they really notice how I'm feeling. Sometimes I wish I could find another way. I know these feelings might come back another day. I stay away from people cause I know they fake. The whole world corrupt and I just don't relate. Black on black on black on black on black, black, black. Isolate me from the world and get them back, back, back. I don't want no friends, I want to stack, stack, stack. I don't want no friends, I want to stack, stack, stack.
Because what I like about this track is that we have a lot of variety with the way the vocals are presented, bit of meta-tune occasionally, nice reverb tails to some other parts, a bit of filtering. There's constant attention to detail, and we're really trying to make this short form factor track even more sort of interesting for the listener. I appreciate that.
On the outside looking in, outside looking in, outside looking in, whoa. On the outside looking in, outside looking in, outside looking in, whoa. Doing damage, doing damage, doing damage, doing damage to myself.
Sick sequence here about that set.
Isolation. I just need some concentration. I just need some concentration, whoa. I don't think they really notice how I'm feeling.
Oh, it's a soprano.
They don't understand, I'm trying to touch the ceiling. I don't think they really notice how I'm feeling. They don't understand, I'm trying to touch the ceiling.
ATG with Outside. Sick, I think I get this track. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named The ATG titled Outside. Now, initially when I started listening to this track, I was like thinking, what can we possibly cover within that 2 minutes that will offer a meaningful plot? Because that's quite a short amount of time. But I think the story was well covered within that short time span. We got enough context. Basically, my understanding is that the ATG is talking about now people looking at him from the outside, or maybe he's on the outside. There's this group and that group, and the other people in the other group are like looking at him and like maybe discounting him and stuff like that, and maybe not thinking that he's going to amount to anything or don't get him, and he just feels like he can't really rely on anyone else. So basically he's looking to try and touch that ceiling. He's trying to get that 100 mil, very kind of sort of focused on trying to find success and doing it on his own if he has to, etc. And I think that's the kind of aim we get here. So I mean, I want to talk about the video production, but then I don't know enough of it to really sort of make a really qualified comment on it. What I will say though is that the mistiness within the video, the color grading with the blues and the dark shades there invokes a sense of sadness, of isolation, of misery, of someone on their own kind of trying to cope with the fact that they are alone, like the lone wolf that was mentioned in the video. So I think the video is very well done. I won't say too much more about it, but moving on from the video and what I think the story is about, the vocals from the ATG are tight. I'm happy with the way that we rapped. I think having the lady singer with the soprano in the background was a nice foil as an additional sort of layer there, but the storytelling was on point. The isolation, like just that rhythm using those syllables there, splitting up words is more of a phonetic device there to enhance the groove and flow of the hook is smart. We had great phrasing, easy to follow rhythmic stanzas there and lines and patterns there that the people would be able to sort of float along to. We clearly are experienced on the microphone and have an understanding of how to get our point across in a way. It doesn't overdo it. How should I say that? I think having two hooks on either side, catchy context, catchy to iterate on it is fine. I think that if you can tell a story in a short space of time like this and keep it meaningful, you don't need to do more than this. And I'm proud of the ATG for doing that. It's right in the middle, start of that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. I don't think that you could have necessarily added more to this track in a way that would have necessarily enhanced the experience, especially since we got into that verse and we kind of dug our heels in and stood our stance there and said what we wanted to, got it off our chest. There was enough variation within the lyrics and stanzas, and it was an authoritative performance from the ATG. It was a confident one. They sounded like they really cared or knew what they were talking about, and they had nothing to prove to anyone else. But you know, we look at the length of it and all the different instruments we had within that space. We had great use of these sort of synthy pad parts, their strings, like these basses and these kicks there, and the synths sort of the sequences and all that. It was very mysterious sounding, for sure. And I think that that's a really important thing when you try to connect it tonally to like the lyrics and the vocal performance, talking about being again a lone wolf, going on your own journey. That there makes a lot of sense tonally. But there were these minor chords that were invoked with these chord progressions there, but with the combination of that with the really kind of strong and just reliably consistent grooves on the hi-hats and kicks there. But when they weren't there, things floated with a sense of uncertainty there, and then they brought back in, and it was enough variety there between the different layers taken in and out for it to work. Again, even though 2 minutes is short, and it's very difficult to become disinterested in a really solid sounding theme within that time, as long as it's articulated correctly and the relevant layers are there, and you don't give the listener everything at once. In fact, for the track to come in at about that halfway point there, it is stellar within itself. Really, this is a 1.5 minute track. I think that there should be more music like this, because I think if you want the attention of the listener, you can't just assume they're going to hang in there for 3 to 4 minutes anymore, you know? I'm surprised there aren't more tracks that are within that 60 to 90 second range. But it's also like the sub-layering of these different elements. We knew that the vocals were the focal point, but we would like add those sub-layers, like you know, like those 16th note grooves there. And it was just stunning there. It had a sense of depth to it, not just with the post-production, but also because of the relative openness of the composition, where we didn't have too much in the center of the stereo field, aside from those low elements and the cymbals there, and the occasional, again, lady vocal backing. It's an awareness that if you overcomplicate the arrangement, even in a shorter form factor track, it's a detriment, and you can kind of confuse the listener and they won't know what to focus on. And that's not me commenting on like the average listener not being whatever to be able to understand it. What I mean is that you typically want to have like a lead and then the rest of it backing it up, no matter what genre of music you're in. So we nailed that here. It was a very simple motif, just going between 2 different bass notes for most of it. But again, like it suited the mood of the track with the story that was being told and the style of vocals. Makes sense within the genre. And ultimately the motif there was almost like it was unresolved even at the end, as if we were on our way to make that 100 mil. We weren't quite there yet. We knew we had a way to go. But we were going to get there even if we had to walk on eggshells the whole way through. We were an outsider, but we were okay with that in the sense that we knew that was just what we're going to probably have to deal with anyways. And if you want to get somewhere in life, you often have to push the boundaries. So yeah, I think it's a really well written track, and it's well performed. The vocal performance was confident, and the story was compelling for the short amount of time we had with it. It's just the studio production which is on point. I think that we articulated ourselves really well. We were clearly confident on the mic, and that came through with the presence of the vocals within the track, not having too much of it either. You know, like we had the drums being nice and kind of like that were definitely there. I know it just sounds so basic. What I mean is that they were nicely leveled with the rest of the elements, such as the bass and the arpeggiators and stuff like that, and all the other sort of atmospheric ambient bits, but it also wasn't too much. There was a nice sense of gluing with the compression of the components within the mix, as well as the master with the bus compression and such. But there was also, again, dynamic range. Things weren't the same loudness all the time. There were different levels where there was, like, again, sub layers where you could hear them a little bit and it kind of sucked you in a little bit and you're like, oh, what's that? And then bam, smacking back into it. The bass nicely, again, controlled in the low end, big, thick, and full of life and working, pulling the track forward alongside the rhythms and the grooves. Things were nice and wide in the stereo field as well there, so it sounded like the music was surrounding you in the headphones on left and right. and it was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting were handled. I mean, basically, this is a very positive review of this track from the ATG titled Outside, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via the various social medias and YouTube page. Stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.